this is Janice Gotten, and I'm going to be doing my paper on the role of the parent in the education of gifted students. Why did I choose this topic in particular? Earlier in the semester, we were asked to provide an anecdote about a time when we were teaching uh, that that focused our interest that we could look at during this particular semester. And I had talked about a time when I was working at the Boys and Girls Club in St. John's, Newfoundland as the education director, and came across a student, a girl who was truly gifted, who I've never come across another student who was, in my opinion, and actually verified as a gifted student. So she was my first, and it was very interesting because I was fascinated by her, and in talking to her, found out that in class she was getting into trouble. She was being sent home, sent to the principal's office. And in talking to her mother, I realized that her mother was incredibly shy, almost like a crippling sense of anxiety for standing up for herself or her daughter. So it just so happened that one of her teachers, her science teacher, was an old professor of mine in my education program. So I approached him, and the amazing things that happened from that point on just really gave me a sense of direction as to what I wanted to focus on for this particular paper. Of course, I'm interested in other aspects of special ed education, but for this one, I wanted to look into it because it was something that was very close to home. So I was going to be looking at the testing that's required to label a student gifted, but the more I thought about that anecdote, the more I decided that I wanted to look into the parental involvement and how parents can actually, and guardians, of course, can actually affect the education of gifted students. It was very hard, I will say, to find articles pertaining to this subject. When I looked up things about challenges, about languages in classrooms, all these other subjects that we've been covering, I found tons of articles. This one I had a hard time finding articles, but it just made me more persistent. And so some of the articles that I'm going to be reviewing and putting into the paper are a little nitpicky. The small sections, of them are perfect for my topic, but not the whole article. So I am picking and choosing. So parent advocacy was the first one that I looked at, and the common traits of what a good parent advocate would look like. And this is not just to do with gifted students, but this particular paper did have a section on gifted students. This is a parent who's going to advocate for any of their child, whether it be gifted, special needs, whether it's going to be just your child who's sort of right in the middle, who's falling through the cracks. So it's motivation, persistence, self-education is key. Finding out as much as you can about your child, where they are in school, what programs are available to them, what their teachers think about those programs, how they can get them into new, exciting, and challenging situations rather than just letting it flow and accepting where their children are. Also leadership. So I found this very interesting because the mother of the girl had been such a meek individual, and it took a very outspoken person, me, to help her come out and help that girl find her place in the world, which I feel very blessed to have been put in that opportunity, in that place to be able to recognize that about her. Next up, academic motivation, where it begins. So this was a list of 6 motivation styles. From the top, where it's intrinsic motivation in the student, and they want to do the work themselves. The A motivation, where they need to be pushed, despite the fact that they're gifted. They might not have a particular motivation to follow their giftedness. And it was about how do parents affect the climate and promote the academic motivation of their child with gifts and talents. How do they go about getting their child from amotivation or introjected regulation to intrinsic, to finding that passion, to being able to do it on their own. How do they teach them to learn and to crave learning? Very interesting. Next up was this is one of the nitty-picky ones, but I found it very interesting. It was using distance education, especially where we're doing distance education masters here. I personally find that I'm missing out on the social aspect. I've always been very involved in my university programs in societies. I've been president of this or that or vice president. I'm always involved. This was a qualitative research paper about the usefulness of distance education, and I looked at it from the student standpoint, the parents, and the teachers. And the parents actually found it very rewarding. They were very positive about the distance education programs, but it all came back to this motivation in the previous slide. Were their children motivated to participate in the distance education? Because like in this program, you have to find that motivation to find the time, because it's not regulated. You don't have to be there at a certain point for the most part. So they looked at the programs and the course offerings, and were the courses and the professors engaging the students? They're young. Are they properly drawing them in so that they want to be learning this? Are they making this learning fun so that they can have that intrinsic motivation to come and learn? It was actually very interesting. Next, desegregating gifted education. I love this one. This was fantastic. It was talking specifically from the standpoint of African American parents, and there was many statistics saying that their children were being deemed troublemakers rather than gifted. And I really connected to this one, because although the girl in my anecdote wasn't African American, she was from a low socioeconomic area and going to one of the hardest schools in the city. And so her teachers were exhausted. They had big classrooms. They had a lot of high needs within the classrooms. So when you have a student who is done and who's distracted and distracting others, it's easy to call them troublemakers. So this one was really interesting, because it wasn't just about low socioeconomic areas. It was about African American parents, even in higher socioeconomic areas, who were still saying that their children were still being called troublemakers. So there was a whole lot of racism packed into this one. It was very interesting. I'm going to have a good section on it. Next up, self-contained classroom for the gifted. So it's about existing versus desired expectations. This one was kind of cool. It was about parents looking at what should they put their child in. Should they have them in enrichment classes where they get pulled out of class, or should their children who are gifted be in self-contained classrooms that can really push them? More of a Montessori type situation. So the enrichment pullout was like a school within a school. The self-contained classroom was really kind of segregated. And there was positives and negatives. The negatives were the self-esteem issue, being pulled away from their peers. They found those were short-lasting, so once they went off to university, their peers changed. They were in a different group altogether, so that changed. The poor socialization was longer-lasting, but it did change once they went off to university and college. The positives were out of this world. They were so much more dedicated to learning. They were surrounded by people who weren't afraid to admit that they wanted to learn and that they were smart. So there's a lot of positives about this, and I really found it interesting. Another one that came after this, another article about parental attitudes about these specialized self-contained schools. They were also incredibly positive. Now, it touched on the same things, the positives and the negatives about the behavior, social interactions. So that was interesting. They compared the two programs, right? And there was a lot about parental involvement, about the curriculum and social emotional development. This one was interesting, but the previous article I found definitely was more in depth. Parental needs was one that came up. There was a study of what do the gifted child parents actually need, and they need courses like parent education programs, motivation, responsibility, how to get their child motivated, be responsible, and especially social growth, where they're so segregated off within their gifted group, like with the self-contained classrooms. How do they promote social growth? And one other thing was microcomputer training. There was a lot of asking for that, but in this day and age, that would make sense. The last one up is Chinese parents of gifted students. So this was another nitpicky one, but I found it interesting because they were looking at the different approaches to how educators identify gifted children. So they had named Dockies, Hermans, Tannenbaums, Razouis, Piertos, and Gardners, Aiden Townsend. But they were talking specifically about in Hong Kong about Chinese gifted students, how it was all about a number before. They had to have a 130 or above, or they couldn't get into all these programs that were specifically out there for gifted students. It was very regimented and all about this one number, and it wasn't looking at multiple intelligences. It was very specific, but they're moving away from that. I found that very interesting, actually, and there was a study done that it was about parents and how the parents weren't really caring about the multiple intelligences as long as it focused on math and science, which I can understand in their culture. Although I say that without much understanding as to what the Chinese culture deems important. So this, of course, is my list of resources, and I have gone 2 minutes over, so that is what my paper is going to be about. Please let me know what you think.